5 bad things about living in Washington, D.C. coming at you now. So I know I am always so pro DC. I've lived here a long time. It has provided my family and I a really good life, and we're generally happy. There's a lot to really like and appreciate, which I cover in so many other videos, right? Almost every other video that we have. But are there downsides to living here? Of course there are. So what are 5 of the worst things about living in Washington, D.C.? Let's get to it. Number 1, mosquitoes. So spring is almost here, and while I absolutely love our cherry blossoms, I cannot stand when the mosquitoes arrive. These little suckers are no joke. They show up early and they wear out their welcome well into the fall when they're still around and you just want them to be gone. We probably spend half the year dealing with mosquitoes, and these are not like the mosquitoes that I remember growing up in Connecticut. Those things were so huge in Connecticut that they could fly away with a small dog. But they're also not like the tiny no-see-ums that they have in Florida that they talk about. Here in DC, if you stop at all when you're outside, they will swarm. If you're walking, you're usually okay. But when you stop, they will feast on you. So chatting with a neighbor, that will cost you. You will look down at your bare legs and there will be 20 just feeding off of your blood. And it is probably the tiger mosquito because we've only got a few different mosquitoes here. So we actually have our yard sprayed for mosquitoes a few times a year, and it helps, but it's certainly not a perfect solution. When you live in really close quarters with other people like we do in the city, there's just no way to really avoid mosquitoes unless everybody else also has their yard sprayed too. So one tidbit, the tiger mosquito, which is what we have here, this is a product of Asia and it loves bamboo. So they breed inside the stalks. If you hate mosquitoes and you find a house that has bamboo or a house with a neighbor who has bamboo, you might want to think twice about buying that because you may find yourself as the landlord for several million mosquitoes over the years. Number 2 of the bad things about DC is tourists. So you may not view this as one of the worst things, but trust me, when cherry blossoms are in peak bloom, which they are right now, it will take hours to go a few miles. Roads are gridlocked all over the place, and all the non-DC drivers have no idea how to navigate the roads, and it's a general disaster. The good news is that if you choose to stay home, everybody in the world that you know is going to be posting pictures of cherry blossoms. They're going to be posting them from far away. They're going to be posting them from close up. They're going to be posting the panoramic view of it along the tidal basin. They're going to be posting a very close up one of a cherry blossom. You're going to see so many cherry blossoms, you're going to be vomiting cherry blossoms and you won't even have to leave your house. Isn't that amazing? Because everybody posted on social. You're not going to miss anything. So while I would say that cherry blossom season is probably the worst time for navigating DC roads, there are middle school field trips that relentlessly descend on DC. Yep, their teachers and chaperones will try to corral them, but when that light turns green and a processional of single-file 14-year-olds looking at their phones while slowly crossing in front of you, you better hope that you're not in a hurry and don't let your foot slip off the brake and hit the gas by accident. That would be very bad. Number 3, most branches of the DC government just don't give a fuck about anything. They don't care about you. They don't care about your house. They don't really care about your car, driving, your safety. They just don't care. So let me be crystal clear here. Working with mostly any government agency of the district is infuriating. Many of these offices are absolutely drenched in incompetence, fraud, corruption. I met with a client today who used to work for a branch of DC government, and he actually said DC stands for don't care. They just don't care. And I was like, I'm stealing that because I had doesn't give a fuck, but I didn't have the acronym for it. But the DC don't care. That's legit. The rare times that I've had to call 911, I actually thought I was being punked. I would say there's a man with a gun in the 1900 block of J Street Northwest. Okay, there is no J Street Northwest. This is just an example. And they would say, did you say that a woman has a knife in the 700 block of X Street Northeast? What? No, I didn't say that. I don't understand how they get that. And it's every single time. So I actually just don't call 911 anymore because I feel like they're not going to solve any problems. Whatever. The person is probably going to be dead by the time they arrive, so it really just doesn't make a difference. I went to register my car. We're going to talk about the DMV for a hot second, and the DMV was pushing back for multiple reasons. They said the car had unpaid tickets. The car failed emissions, they said. I said, I didn't know how that's possible because I just purchased this car a couple days ago, and it was shipped up here from Georgia. The woman kept yelling at me that she wasn't going to register the vehicle until I proved that it had passed emissions and paid all the tickets. And I kept responding that it wasn't possible all these things could have happened to this car in DC that just arrived here a few days ago. After several rounds, I said, can you just show me what you're looking at? The inspection failure, the unpaid tickets, I don't know, maybe somebody owned this car before me. It was a used car. Maybe somebody owned it before me and did live in DC, and somehow it ended up in Georgia and it came back. So she ends up citing a date in 2005. And I said, ma'am, I'm not trying to be difficult here. This car is actually a 2008. She was so disgusted with me that she literally threw her pen, got up, and then sent another woman over to continue helping me. I also hope that you never have to deal with getting a business license for a rental property in DC. The city created this business license, which is basically just known as another way of a money grab for them. And they're too busy to administer the inspections that they require for this business license. So they trained members of the public who volunteered themselves to do this and make a little extra cash on the side. It is a crapshoot on who you get. They get paid per inspection. So they actually love to fail people. I am pretty sure some of these inspectors are sleeping in the woods at night. I mean, we are talking about people who have serious issues coping at life, who are incentivized to fail you so that you have to continuously pay for inspections. This is just a thing. All right. The mayor's office has oversight on most everything in the city, to include the schools. For those who advocate that DC should be granted statehood, I'm actually not so sure. I'm not convinced of this yet. If we're going to add a second layer of the same incompetence in a government form that we already have, I mean, no thanks. I don't need my bread buttered on both sides, so I'm good. Number 4, politics with a side of big law. It can get really old really quick living in a place where people live and breathe politics, especially if you find it a snooze festival. Many people's jobs here revolve around politics in some fashion, whether it's working directly for the government, for a contractor, or as a lobbyist. Now, don't get me wrong, living near the seat of where all the decisions are made and the home base of where our country was founded is actually pretty cool. But you have to endure many more political conversations here than in most other places. Now, going on vacation is sort of like a breath of fresh air for the change in nonstop focus on government. Of course, you'll probably be in a place where they print photos of aborted fetuses on highway billboards, and then you'll have to explain that to your kids, that the people who made that billboard care about these fetuses before they're born, but they don't actually care about the children in the cars who are alive today, like you two, and we're driving by. And I have to explain this to you what it is, and now you have to figure out how to unsee the aborted fetus and not let it infect your nightmares. I know, I went a long way for that one, but I am just explaining to you what it's like when we go somewhere else. All right, there are a ton of lawyers here too, tons, and most of them think they're smarter than you, and that can also get old pretty quickly. I often see comments on various sites from an attorney who will say, they start out with, I work in big law, okay. All right, big boy, down. And they start with that declaration so that you're going to know that whatever they say next, they're smarter than you, and that that's right, and whatever you have to say is your opinion, and you're wrong, and you're stupid. And I've gone toe-to-toe with some of these people in various real estate forums because they've been known to give people some really wildly incorrect advice. So there you go. Number 5 is crime. I really can't not mention this. The crime right now in some parts of the city is absolutely atrocious. There are crime bills and multiple missives from the DC Council to create drug-free zones and get tougher on crime. But see item 3 above about the district government. I don't trust the powers that be of DC to administer or execute anything properly. First, you have a large population of people in the city who feel the need to be apologists for crime. They feel bad for the kids, or when there's a mass theft from a store like CVS, they'll say things like, well, I don't feel bad because CVS is a huge corporation and they have insurance. Well, joke's on you. Prices go up. CVS will eventually close if they consistently have theft in some areas, and that's just bad for the whole neighborhood. The fallout from the pandemic is legit real. So teenagers right now are responsible for most of the carjackings in DC. Is that not completely wild? You will see comments on social media asking, where are the parents? But the carjackings continue. In 2023, there were 959 carjackings, which was up from 485 in 2022. So it more than doubled. It is too soon to tell if 2023 was our peak and 2024 will be better. But carjackings and assault with a deadly weapon were both down 33% this year as opposed to the same time last year. I mean, hopefully something's got to give here. I have long been a critic of the police, but the days like 20 years ago when they appeared to be just arrogant and lazy, those days aren't really the same now. In recent years, it has not felt like this at all. And it seems like they're like cranking and making arrests for sure. But you know, to their detriment, like our detriment, only 1 out of 3 were prosecuted by the Office of the Attorney General. And that has to be super frustrating for the police that they're getting people off the street and they're literally just revolving door, turning them right back around and sending them out. And a lot of times they commit the same crime or they amp it up and they commit something worse. So it's hard to know where to point the finger here, but I hope that we are on the mend to turning this around. And I hope that our numbers right now are indicative of that potentially happening. So I hope that you enjoyed the 5 worst things about living in DC. I probably should have made it 6 things because we also have rats here. But they don't bother you. They mostly just mind their own business. Mostly. Contact info is coming next.